morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know saw a lot of you last week as well at the Democratic Issues Conference, where we enjoyed a very productive session. We heard from subject matter experts, members of the President's Cabinet, senior administration officials, the President and the Vice President themselves to talk about the accomplishments that we have made together. Just a few miles from where we were in Baltimore, Republicans gathered to discuss their own set of priorities. There was a panel called "They Stole It From Us Legally." And the leader of the Republican Party got on stage and promised to enact vengeance on his political enemies. What did not come up was what their budget or plan is to protect Social Security and Medicare, or a plan to lower costs for working families. Again, this is a stark contrast between House Democrats and Republicans. We're putting people over politics. The president's budget tomorrow will enumerate our priorities to reduce the deficit while investing in the middle class, strengthening Social Security and Medicare, honoring our commitment to veterans. It's time for Speaker McCarthy and House Republicans to level with the American people and put out their plan to either cut Social Security or enact disastrous cuts to other programs. Ryan?
Mr. Aguilar, I wonder if you could comment about the fallout from the D.C. crime bill. The Senate likely going to vote on it today with the Republican position. How are the rank and file members of your conference feeling that were opposed to the legislation and supporting D.C.'s home rule that the president decided that he would sign this piece of legislation into law?
Well, many of us supported, many of us have taken the position that home rule is important. As a former member, there's a lot of former mayors and former city council members that populate our side of the aisle and have long held the belief that the residents of Washington, D.C. deserve the opportunity to be represented. We support Washington, D.C. being a state, but from a home rule perspective, we want to respect their rights. So, we made that vote with that in mind. I think that the communication could have been better. From down the street in Pennsylvania, I've said that I was disappointed. That holds true. But our record on public safety is incredibly strong, from raising the levels of burn jag funding within the Appropriations Committee, the omnibus that we passed, to members specifically highlighting community funding projects that are focused on public safety. Keeping our community safe isn't just our slogan. It isn't gotcha politics. It is who we are. Lowering costs, better paying jobs, improving the safety of our communities. That's what we want to accomplish as House Democrats. That's what we continue to stand for, and making sure that we continue to make investments in substance abuse and mental health services. Those are the types of things, the bipartisan gun safety legislation, those are the things that truly will help public safety. That's what House Democrats have stood on, and that's what we will continue to support.
Budget tomorrow, Republicans are signaling that this could be a long and potentially divisive path. Do you think Republicans and President Biden could work in good faith together to solve this issue?
We look forward to working with rational Republicans to govern. As soon as we find enough of them on the other side of the aisle, we will do that. But first, it starts by we need to see their plan. President Biden is exercising leadership tomorrow by putting together a plan that protects Social Security and Medicare, lowers our deficit, creates jobs, helps our economy. What's the Republican plan? As soon as you show us that plan, we're willing to have a conversation. But we can't have a conversation if we put a plan on the table and they continue to speak in platitudes and speak to the most extreme members of their caucus by talking about cutting over $100 billion of the budget. As soon as Republicans put together a plan, we'll be happy to engage in a conversation about the future of our country and our values.
Congressman Aguilar, Basil Drummond, Nexstar. There's talk among some Republicans, specifically in the Senate, about designating the cartels as a terrorist organization. I know Senator Lindsey Graham is supposed to be speaking on it later today, and also Senator Joe Manchin had also made some note about it. Do House Democrats have a position as to whether they think it's time to label the cartel as a terrorist organization, or is there more to it that needs to be looked into?
Well, look, I think I would want to consult with the Department of Homeland Security Chairman Benny Thompson as well for the future of these discussions, but there's no doubt that what the cartel is seeking to do on the southern border is disastrous. It's harmful. It puts people's lives in jeopardy from a human trafficking perspective, from trafficking in drugs perspective. What they are doing jeopardizes the safety and security of the country, and that's why you've seen such a robust presence from our law enforcement agencies who work in that region. They have been working with their counterparts south of the border. Every day they do that. Working in close coordination is what they do, and I point to the El Chapo and the continuing intelligence sharing and bringing people to justice. That's not going to stop no matter what a designation yields. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, are you satisfied with the answers that you got from Secretary Mayorkas yesterday after the Hispanic Caucus asked about any potentially other issues with DHS?
I'm comfortable that we have good coordination and consultation with Secretary Mayorkas. At its core, just kind of stepping back, the president ran on, he geared his campaign and he ran on the principle that separating families was wrong and cruel, and that family detention was wrong. And it was the wrong policy then. It is the wrong policy now. We believe that the president still holds that position. We appreciate the lines of communication that are open with Secretary Mayorkas. We look forward to working with him to develop continued solutions to what is happening at the border. We do not want to see a crisis in any way. We want to make sure that there is law and order. We want to make sure that there is decency in how we treat migrants who are fleeing oppressive regimes and violent circumstances. There needs to be a process, and that's what the Congressional Hispanic Caucus has continually advocated for. We look forward to working with Secretary Mayorkas to effectuate policy that meets those objectives.
A bill is expected to come to the floor on Friday after it unanimously passed the Senate last week on declassifying the origins of coronavirus. I'm curious now that Ranking Member Himes indicated in the Rules Committee yesterday that he will support that measure and he is supportive of declassifying some of that intel on COVID origins. What's your position specifically on that bill that's coming to the floor on Friday?
My position is exactly the same as I shared last week, that I think was incorrectly mentioned in your reporting. And that position is that, broadly speaking, declassification is held to the executive, and we work with them to have those discussions. And where there is a legislative intent and where there are legislative policies, we will work with our ranking members. That is exactly what I said to the same answer, to the same question that you gave last week. I said we would work with Ranking Member Himes to formulate the position. We have a position. Ranking Member Himes has said he is supportive of it. I would expect many Democrats, if not all, would support this position and the declassification. It's exactly what I said before. There's no daylight in Ranking Member Himes or Democratic leadership, and I think what you wrote and reported earlier was incorrect, and it's unfortunate.
Education and Workforce Committee is having their first markup today on a bill that would, if passed, amount to a federal transports ban. The Equality Caucus just had a press conference opposing it right before this. I was curious if the caucus had a position, if you have a position on the bill, and what are your thoughts that this is their first, this is how they're spending their first markup on this issue?
And I think I appreciate the question. Broadly speaking, too, and I hate mentioning the CPAC conference, but this is a core group of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle who cater to CPAC, who go there. This is who they are, and I would remind you that one of the speakers at CPAC said transgenderism must be eliminated. As a parent, I want every child to be able to grow up in a safe, environment. I want every kid to grow up with the freedoms to reach their full potential. That's what we should all want, is as parents and members of the community. And it's unfortunate that House Republicans, continue to spew this and to support this. And while it isn't the topic of their hearing, they are clearly speaking to the same audience. It is tragic and unfortunate, and House Democrats and I will continue to do everything we can to make sure every child lives up to their full potential, no matter who they are, how they identify, or who they love. Right.
You mentioned that you were disappointed with the White House not communicating better on the DC crime resolution. There's also some consternation yesterday about the report on the family migrant detention not being given a heads up to House Democrats. Sure, you should hear it to the White House and the Hill. They're not communicating better. Why does this keep happening, you think?
No, I appreciate the desire to want to chip away at what has been a very unified relationship with the White House. I think that there can always, just like in any office, in any household, there could always be better communication. That is our message. We look forward to working with our colleagues. These have been amazing. We've had an amazing run of 2 years of legislative achievements working with the White House hand in glove. We were able to do that by working with the Senate, by working with the White House to make sure we have the right votes and the right tallies. That was on Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer and Jim Clyburn in order to make sure House Democrats were united to make sure that we had enough votes to deliver bipartisan infrastructure reform. All of these priorities. Now comes the tough part. We have to implement the bills and legislation that we passed, and we have to navigate what is a hostile environment with House Republicans catering to the most extreme members of their caucus. And one of the tools that they have are these CRAs, and I understand that. We understand that. We've been around here a while. So we're going to continue to work with them. We're going to continue to coordinate and communicate to make sure we're getting this right, and that it's Corp and House Democrats continue to support and work with the president and his administration each and every day. We're going to continue to do that. Where there are times where we need to have offline conversations to work to ensure that the communication is better, we're going to do that. Having honest conversations is exactly what we do with our friends and allies.
Last question.
Previously, you were critical of Speaker McCarthy handing over the January 6th tapes to Tucker Carlson. So both as a member of Democratic leadership and a former member of the January 6th committee, want to know, A, if you had a chance to watch Tucker Carlson's program of the tapes, and B, what your takeaway was from it, what your reaction was.
For my own mental health, I make it a point not to watch that show. But I did see snippets online, and I'll tell you, what we've seen from Tucker Carlson is continued lies from a proven liar. And I understand the desire to divert away from the lawsuits and things and the reporting and the emails and text messages that he sent. But what he is doing, with the help of House Republicans and Speaker McCarthy, mind you, is dangerous. It's dangerous to those of us who work in the Capitol. It's dangerous to the law enforcement entities who protect us here in this Capitol. Showing camera angles, all of that is deeply, deeply dangerous and frustrating. And to continue to characterize this is a truest gathering when insurrectionists and rioters were walking in these halls smearing shit on the walls is just, it's the height of hypocrisy and incredibly dangerous. But this isn't just on Tucker Carlson. This is on House Republicans and Speaker McCarthy, who has demonstrated he will do and say anything he can to deliver on the promises that he made to the 20 most extreme members of his caucus. That is exactly what this is, and that is exactly how we should treat this. The work of the January 6th committee moved folks from across the political spectrum. We had conversations. We had an honest view of this. As a result, we saw much of this footage. We played significant amounts of this footage in the public realm, and we were happy to share what we have learned in that regard. But this is different, and this is dangerous because there were no checks and controls on this. Speaker McCarthy had mentioned that law enforcement would have a role in approving what was used. That did not happen. I would refer you to the chief's memo that he sent out, and I would further point you to what Leader McConnell said, about this, holding up the chief's memo, saying that this was wrong. House Republicans should really be held to account to this dangerous and reckless activity. This isn't just on the media program that it aired on. This is on Speaker McCarthy and falls on his lap for putting all of us at risk. And it's unfortunate the position that he's put us all in. But the safety and security of all of us apparently comes second and third in line in priorities to satisfying the most extreme in his caucus. Thank you.